of resources. There's
Sure.
infinite amount of resources. We just got to understand how it works.
Indeed, and I mean what you're saying there, then I guess we move into the area of the role of consciousness in all of this, because if we, I mean, if I'm hearing you correct here, it has to do with our perception of things as well. It has to do with our intent of the system that we are a part of. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It definitely has to do with perception and going beyond our five senses and realizing that there's an underlying fundamental force from which all of our experience emerges, and then to realize that we're part of that feedback. That like consciousness in this theory can easily be explained by understanding that, in order for you to be self-aware, you need to have a feedback. For instance, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and know that it's you. And so basically, what we call consciousness is actually that force of nature that goes out, gathers information, and brings it back in, and goes out, gathers information, and brings it back in. And basically, you're like a probe of the vacuum, looking back at yourself and experiencing the vacuum and informing the vacuum of your experience. And then the vacuum is feeding you back experiences that you interpret and inform the vacuum about as well, and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're experiencing the vacuum from one very specific point in the fractal structure of the vacuum, which is infinite, meaning that each point is the center, each point experiences it in its own very specific particular way, you are crucial to informing the universe about that very specific perspective. And so when we become aware of that we're part of this infinite feedback in space, then we can become active, conscious participant in it, and not only participate philosophically in the way we're thinking, in a way that brings us more of what we want and less of what we don't want, but we can apply this understanding to technology so that we can produce technology that interact with that feedback to give us everything we can ever dream of.
Very interesting. So mankind in a way then might be a result of the, well, if you will, the wish of the universe to understand itself. Is that correct?
Yes, in some ways you could think of it that way. I like to think of it as a branch of a fractal structure, and every individual is like the little teeny point on the end of that branch, experiencing, looking back at itself, looking back at the universe, and experiencing it from its own very specific point of view, and feeding a very specific set of information that is only very particular to them. And so the importance of every single individual is so crucial in this view. Like the universe, that we're not just irrelevant little dot that mean nothing, but that we're actually part of a very large will works of nature, in which we're playing a role in experiencing and forming the universe about our experience.
Fascinating. Hey, Nassim, I think this is a good place to round things up here for our first segment, and then I definitely want to ask you more about your DVD, Crossing the Event Horizon. I know that you touch upon a lot of different subjects in that DVD that we haven't gone into yet, things like the crop circles, for instance, and even going back to some of the scriptures that you mentioned in the beginning of the program. I definitely want to ask you more about that, but to round things up here for our first segment, tell us a little bit about your DVD, what it is about, and how people who are interested in finding out more about your research, how they can get a copy of this DVD.
Okay, yes. Well, the DVD is basically, I give seminars, and for some 15 years I've been giving seminars, and I've always been asked, can we have this so we can study it, because my talks are typically 8 to 10 hours long, and there's so much information and so on. and it would be so much better for people to review it and so on. So eventually I produced a DVD, and it's an edited version of my long seminar. It's still about 8 hours long. It's 4 DVDs in a set of DVD. It may be daunting, but actually it goes pretty fast. And in there's all of the details of this theory, what it means, this beautiful graphics that expresses it. It's very easy to understand. It's actually, I have from housewives to, very young kids to, older people and so on. Anybody can understand it, and I think that's one of the beauty of this series, that it's intuitive and it's easily understood. And then I talk about all of the research I did in ancient civilization and what that means to our concept of our history and how science evolved and which part in science got missed and how is that going to change our world and how, and the changes that are occurring in our world. And there's a bunch of special features on the DVD that are very important.
Brilliant. And I guess the easiest way to get a copy is to go to the resonanceproject.org. Is that correct?
That's correct. And you can buy it right online. And, you can email us comments and all this, get on our email list. And as well, I do monthly phone calls in which people, after they've seen the DVD or if they have any questions and so on, they can ask me directly on these monthly phone calls. So there's a way for them to get their question answered, because the information is going to answer a lot of questions and it's going to raise a lot of questions. So yeah. I wanted for people to have a way to ask those.
Okay, brilliant. Everyone do take a look, the resonanceproject.org. We're going to take a little break here and then continue talking more with Nassim in our member section. And we have a lot more to get into. But thank you very much for tuning in to this segment, and thanks to Fredrik behind the controls. So stay with us, Nassim, and we'll continue after this short break.
Thank you.
There's no